Project sheet one was it wasn't just a property drawing, so we're still doing the property with the corners. We're still doing our dimensions around the outside, so some of you have already turned that in. But then you're showing the elevations that you calculated at each one of the points. Now, I know these numbers do not mimic the elevations that you found on that one. So your next task, and ignore that I wrote those in color, that's just like showing your original elevation drawing. So, what I'm going to do, the next step that you will be doing will be going point to point based on the elevations, not the rod shots. Whenever we do contours, we need to know what contour interval. If you're somewhere like in the mountains, your interval, if you look at a contour map for the mountains, it might be 100 feet of elevation change for every contour. Around here, being how flat we are in Southeast Texas, you're looking at probably a 6-inch or a 1-foot contour elevation interval. What that means is that once we set an interval, we're gonna go from one point to the next, one point to the next, all the way across, all the way up and down and around our property lines. Between any two corresponding points, we're going to make tick marks or some kind of a mark for each one of the intervals. So on this project, your interval is 6 inches. 6 inches in decimals of a foot we know is 0.5. So I'm gonna count from one number to the next at each one of these points, and I'm gonna make a little mark for each 0.5 interval. So if I'm starting here at 52, I'll go from lower to higher. It doesn't matter which way you go, it should still be the same. If I start counting from 52.1 up to 53.8, I'm gonna make a mark and a note for each half foot. So if I start at 52.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, there's one of my intervals. 52.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, 0.0, there's another interval. 53.0, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, there's another one. 53.5. 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, I'm at my point. There is no set spacing. We're not out there measuring. We don't have anything that tells us from this point, it goes 3 feet to that first interval change, another 6 feet, we don't have that information. We just know that between these 2 points, it goes from 52.1 elevation, so maybe we're out there and it's ground level right here. And as we're walking to that next point, it's steadily getting higher and higher and higher until we get to that other point, which is 53.8 elevation. So remember, elevation is just a height above something. In this case, normally it would be above sea level. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue on with some more of these. I'm gonna go between these two right here, 50.7. So if I start counting my way to 52.1, I'm gonna hit 51.0. 51.5, 52.0. Between these right here, I've got a lot of intervals. 51.0, 51.5, 52, 52.5, 53, 53.5, 54, 54.5, and then bam, I hit my next number. So after I go through and do all of these in both directions, so this one would have 51.0, 51.5. Between these two, 51.0, 51.5, 52.0. Between these two, 52.5, 53, 53.5, 54, 54.5, 55.0. And then go back and do it in the other direction, 53.8, 51.6. So I'm gonna say there's 52.0, 52.5, 53.0, 53.5. Between these two, 51.6, 52.0. That's it. And there does not have to be a contour. When you're doing your project, there's going to be some that do not have any tick marks between them. So between these two, so this one's a little triangular shape. Most of them, once we get out here in the middle, it's going to be little rectangular, 4-sided shapes. So between these two right here, we've got 51.0, 51.5, 52.0. Between these two, 50.7, 50.7, there's nothing that crosses right there. Between these two, 52.5, 53, 53.5, 54, 54.5. Between these two, 52.5, 53, 53.5, 54, 54.5, and 55. So once you've gone through and done that part, I recommend, yes?
So what are those purple numbers? Like, why is
That's the elevation we calculated.
Okay, so they're elevations, so, okay. I was curious on how you could have this 50.7 and 50.7.
That's the elevations, but yours are not gonna be this. Yours are gonna be 90s and 100 point something. So this is just makeup, similar to your property shape, that corner and stuff, but I just used numbers so that you wouldn't confuse that and transfer this over to your drawing. So once you've gone through, based on previous students and the experiences I've seen checking drawings, once you get through, do it again. I recommend you do it all in CAD. It's up to you. If you want to print it out and go through by hand and do it, that's the way we used to do it, but we don't have the big plotters now. I used to tell the students, before you start this, get your elevation sheet, that sheet one that you turned in, print you another one out, a scratch sheet, so that you can have that big 24 by 36. But really all you need to do in AutoCAD is just zoom in on that area, have you some little symbol or something that you do along there. So after we get through, we're going to track it from one to the next. Okay, there's 53. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna focus again on each little area, not just these 2 points. I'm gonna focus on this little bounded area. These 3 make a little triangular shape right here. These 4 make a rectangular square shape. When I get back over here, here's another little triangle around my property line. So we're gonna go horizontally and vertically, and it's as simple as counting from one to the next. Every time you hit your interval of half a foot, you just put a tick mark. So does everybody understand this? Like I said, that's not that hard, but it's real easy to miss something. So that's why I recommend you do it twice. So now I'm gonna start going and looking at each little bounded area. Did I do this one? No. So 51.6, and we've just got one here, 52.0. And yeah, 52.0 between those two. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna focus on each little bounded area. I'm gonna find a number on one side and see where it comes out or goes to another side. So I've got a 53.5 here, a 53.5 here. So that little contour just simply goes right there. So my finished product for this, I'm gonna go ahead and transfer it a little bit smaller over to here. Your finished product is gonna have your corner circles. We're going back similar to the property drawing. You're gonna have your corner circles. You're gonna have your sides labeled. And then once we get that contour drawing, and we've gone through and done all our sketching, then your finished product will be to show that contour on sheet 2 of this project. So still the Hunt Incorporated, everything's still the same except it's sheet 2 now. We're not gonna show the elevations. What you're gonna do is you're gonna show that contour. Now, we didn't go outside and survey, so just like we called this point right here, even though, or one of these that didn't fall right on our line, we still called it a name, even though in reality that intersecting point was out there. We don't know what happens after our property, but we know that that contour does not just stop flat. There's not a cliff's edge right there. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna show that contour sticking out a little bit, then you're gonna label it. So this one right here was my 53.5. That would be all the label that I would need for that. We could clearly say, okay, what's this contour? Bam, there's my elevation right there. When you're doing and labeling this drawing, you don't want to have a contour that is labeled like that. We're not gonna do kind of a stitch line, it's just fill those contours up. Your contour, and ask me, shoot me a PDF, ask me if you have too many or not enough. Basically, when we get a contour drawing finished and someone's looking at that contour drawing and they say, this contour right here, what elevation is it? It should be easy for them to track it in one way or another to find that written elevation. So back over here, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go through and you're gonna find each one where it comes in and exits each box, 52.5, 53.8, 53.5, 53.0, 52.5. So this one comes down right here and goes outside. Here's my 52.0, it doesn't go up there. This one goes out into that area. Don't try to work your contour from one end of the drawing to the next. On this project, you're gonna have some contours that are gonna be going all the way or a long ways across that drawing. Some of them possibly that come down and make a dip and then go back across. Don't try to lay each contour out. Work on one area. It's gonna be a lot easier for you to work on that one area. Then when you get that one all done, now you look at this other area. See, I've got a 52.0, so that one comes in and ties in right there. 51.5, this one comes all the way down out the bottom. 51.0, all the way down out the bottom. So that's it for that one. Now I'm gonna jump over to this one. 51.0 right here again, top to bottom. 51.5, top to bottom. 52.0, top to bottom. 52.5 comes over and curls out into that direction. 53.0 comes over and curls out in that direction. 54 or 53.5, 54, 54.5. Then we're gonna move and look at the next box. So
Quick question.
what?
So in that square and in the previous square, there's 52s, but you had it going up. Do we not reconnect that somehow, or it's just gonna be a new line?
Up here, that's the top of our property.
Okay.
I'm not going any further up there. I don't have anything up there. We didn't have sheet elevations up there. We don't know what's up there.
Okay.
We just know that that contour went outside of our property line. It didn't drop off with the cliff. So now I'm gonna move down to this one. So here's my 4 bounded area. I've got a 51.0 coming in. I can see a 51.0 there. 51.5, 52.0. And that's all for that one. Then I've got over here on this side, 52.5. There's my other 52.5, 53. 53.5, 54. 54.5, 55.0. And I've got another 52 and some more over here. I don't know what happened to my 51.0. There it is. It just makes a loop like that. It goes back out there. 51.5 goes right there. 52.0. It will work itself out. If you went through and did your elevations correctly, and you go through and do each one of those tick marks correctly, which is just time. It takes some time to sit there and go through and lay each one of those out. And then, like I said, I recommend you go back and do it again just to make sure. There's a good chance, based on past history, that you will miss one. Maybe you will add an extra. Now, there will be times where you've got 4, 1 on each side. So maybe we went through and did our tick marks, and here was a 60.0, here was a 60.0, here was a 60.0, here was a 60.0. If you come to this and it doesn't look obvious, does your contour need to go here to here? Or does your contour need to go there to there? Lots of times what you need to do is just step away from that box. Go pick another area and work your way back to it from your other areas. What I always recommend is you start at one corner and you go till you get in the binder, you come to something that, all right, what do I do here? I've got it in all 4. You will have several on this project that have that side. I think there's about 3 or 4 of them that have an elevation on each one of the sides of that little square. It can go either way. Maybe your contour is coming down like this, and then you've got another contour over here coming across, and you say, well, I'm gonna bring it down like this. And then someone else is working on the same project, they say, well, I'm gonna take mine and go in this direction.
So there's no right or wrong.
Sometimes there is, sometimes it means you made a mistake. But if you come to a contour where you run your contour and it stops out in the middle of your project, you made a mistake. Either you put an incorrect number or you left a number off. Every time, those contours will enter that area and also leave. Either leave by going outside the property or leave by going out another side of that little squared area. But it will work. So on this one, I've got my 53.5, and then I had another contour over here, 53.0. I had another one right here, 52.5. And then I had this 52.0 that was going a little bit lower, so maybe I'm gonna take that one and put it out here in the middle because that contour is a little longer. We need to be able to stick our finger out there and say, what's the elevation of this contour, and be able to go in a little ways and find that elevation written. Now, I recommend you do it with text masking. You do your multi-line text and you use text masking. If you go through and do something like the break command, BR and space bar, which will allow you to break a piece of that segment, use your spline, but use the spline that is called spline fit. Yep, the spline fit command, not the spline CV. Spline fit. So after you get through, something else I recommend, don't just pick a point here and a point there to make that spline. On something short like this, not a problem. But once you get out into that drawing, pick you a couple of extra points in between those. So if I had this tick mark right here, and I'm making that contour like that, when I leave this one right here, I'm gonna probably pick out there outside, because remember, we always run it outside, because we know we aren't cut off at a cliff's edge right there. So I might pick a point out there, and instead of going straight down to this next tick, I'm gonna pick a point there, I'm gonna pick a point there, then I'm gonna pick a point there, pick a point here, then pick a point there, here, then pick. What it is when you do that spline, the spline command in AutoCAD takes those points that you pick and makes a curved line through those points. So if you pick extra points and then you have another spline that you do a minute later that you pick points on it at your tick marks, maybe this spline in AutoCAD says, well, I'm gonna drive it up like that to make it. AutoCAD makes those curves, makes that flowing curve through there. We know those elevations don't flip sides like that. By having those extra pick points, so if you had extra points when you were placing that spline, you could then select that spline. It's gonna pop up those blue grips, and you can just move those grips over to there and force AutoCAD to make the contour or the spline go in the direction you want. Like I said, once you go through, if you use text masking will allow you to put that elevation on there. And then if you say, well, that elevation is too close, it's too cluttered right here, I want to move that elevation over to here, you just grab that text, move it to the new location, so it's no longer right here. That spline now shows back up. Whereas if you use the break command, you've got to go back in there and manipulate and draw that spline back in that area. So I recommend you do multi-line text and use your text masking to do that. And that way, as you position it, as you take that one right here and you copy it over here, you don't have to go back and trim or break that spline. You could take it over here and maybe rotate it, because we want our contours to be in the same position. I mean, our text to be in the same position as our contour behind it. Remember your text rules in here. We don't do anything text dimension wise or text label direction wise. We don't do anything over 90 degrees all the way around to 270 degrees. So when you're putting that text on there and you're like, well, I don't know about that angle, that might be upside down. Single click on it and go to your properties. If that property for that angle puts that angle, or for that text says that that angle is 90.9 degrees, all the way around to 270, rotate it 180 degrees. So everybody understand that? All right, so on this project, your interval is 0.5 feet. Your next chapter review to do for the next week is chapter 8, part 3. Chapter 8 talks about contours, so that'll give you a little bit of info possibly on this. Whenever you label your contours, we're going to have two different labels or two different contour line weights. Our even feet contours are going to be what's called an index contour. So all of your point zeros are going to be in your index contour layer. They're going to be a little bit heavier line weight versus the intermediate contour. So the 0.0 is your index, the 0.5 is your intermediate, the thinner line weight. Now there are multiple options to your contours. So there are some of those boxes that have four that say it could go this way or it could go another way. When I zoom in on this, you will see these in red with our symbol next to it. That was my elevations from sheet 1. They're still on here. I just have them in a no print layer. I said, well, I want to keep those on there, but I want to have a way of not showing them on this drawing. So I just put them in a separate layer that is a text hidden or something like that. I call mine ticks, no print layer. So I can look at them, I can utilize that information. Here's my little ticks that I copied from point to point and then went through and put my intervals, my 6-inch intervals. That is also in a no print layer. The only thing that is printing is my contours with the labels on them. So you can see right here, here's a contour, there's a label right there. Here's a contour. The black number, that's a label. The red number just happened to be a tick mark that was right there by my label. You can see that on this one right here, it's a circular shape. So this one hit in multiple boxes around here and curled back to itself. You will see there's a lot of different variations in your lines here. I've got 3 or 4 different options shown on this one. So it isn't just this is how it is. There's different variations that it could be. Some people might say my contour went through that box and curled out the bottom. Another person might say, well, I did my contour going in the other direction. Doesn't mean one's wrong. There are different variations, and I've tried to utilize that in showing it on my drawing here. So any questions on what you're working on this sheet 2 of the project?
What kind of map is this considered?
Do what?
What kind of map is this considered?
Contour.
So you said the only ones printing is contour and the text?
This text labeling the contour, yes. Not all these little red
Okay.
lines.
Just
That's
the
my tick
labels.
marks. That's where I went through and made all these little tick marks along there and put the elevation of them from point to point to point. But we don't want those to print. You can see on the outside over here, I brought my contours to the outside and I showed that label on the outside. Just a little bit outside your property. How far, Mr. Pete? Can it be too long? Yes. Can it be too short? Yes. Chapter 8 will tell you a little bit about your contours and probably give you an idea, but the only real way to know is it too far, is it not far enough? Just print a little corner of it out and bring it up here to me. Send me a PDF, let me look at it. Because it is a judgment thing, it is a look at it and see, does it look like that's a snake crawling out onto the neighbor's property? You went too far. Can I tell that it goes outside the property? That's what I want to be able to do. Does it look like it's cut off at the property line? That's a mistake. We just want it to tell a little bit outside the property. You don't have to label all of your contours outside. Not all of them that go outside will have a label outside. I'm trying to find one that doesn't.
If you go back, the other one doesn't with green line. It only is it on one end.
Yeah. You can see this 98.5 right here. I've got it up there. I've got it again right here. We follow that contour along. Here's my next one way down here. So I looked at it and said, you know, if they put their finger right here and say, what's the elevation right here? They don't have to track too far to find a label. So that is the next phase of your Hunt Incorporated. This is not part of the one you're working on now that you're turning in. Some of you, I've got those to hand back. Some of you haven't got that to me, so I need that ASAP. But that is going to be phase 2 of that project. In your legend, so in the legend for this sheet, so we're talking about sheet 2. Go a little bit higher with this. So in your legend, you're still going to have your property corner. I'm going to write this all the way out because some of y'all are still missing on that right there. You're showing them a picture and you're lining, you're telling them what it is. The next thing that you're going to have on here, you will still have your benchmark down there. We are not going to have elevations on there, so it's just going to be the box with the BM above it. Tell them, hey, that's what that is. That's a benchmark. That little square with the BM written on the corner, that is your benchmark. And you're also going to have your index contours. You're going to have your intermediate contours. You will not have anything, you will not even need a notes section. You can still have the word notes down there, but you will not have any notes on this project. Yes?
How do you know whether you're gonna need to use an index or an enter?
Anybody? What'd I say?
Ends in a 0, you do the index, 0.5 is the enter.
Sorry, one more time.
Your index is your point zeros. Intermediate is 0.5.
Oh, okay. Sorry. My brain's lagging.
All right, any other questions on this? Because we need to get outside and get back in so y'all can start on your test. So any more questions on this project?
Can we draw it by hand, or does it have to be AutoCAD?
Well, it has to be AutoCAD. You could draw it by hand to sketch it up, but 2023, we don't do anything final by hand. All right, so any more questions on sheet 2? Like I said, it's time consuming. going through there, cause you've got so many points that you've got to go through, horizontally, vertically. There are no shortcuts on this. Don't try to find one, don't try to take one. All right, so next step, let's go outside and do your surveys. Talk about your survey. So like I said, all you need is a printout of that area. You can do a snippet with the snipping tool and get a screenshot. Might wanna turn that landscape style, because you're gonna be writing on there and it's gonna be hard to write and lay all that out. Just print it, just say landscape instead of portrait, because you're gonna need room to write, maybe even 11 by 17. And remember, you really only need one to go out and make these marks.
This is the duo thing? This is the partner exercise?
Yes, this is the two. So one of y'all can go out and make notes, or both of y'all can take notes and mark it up, whichever way y'all wanna do. But we're only turning in one set of work. So each group will work together. You will do the drawing. If one person says, I'll do the drawing, I've already got it sketched, I've already got it drawn, no problem. And then y'all work together on that, because obviously only one person can work on the AutoCAD at a time. Instead of one person getting up, all right, it's your turn to do it. Now my turn again. When you're outside, yes, you need to alternate. So when y'all are outside surveying, you and Kyle, I believe you're a little bit taller, but y'all just remember to set it up lowest case scenario. You know, we don't want him to go out there like this, and you definitely don't wanna have to move your equipment halfway through the project, because that opens up another whole can of worms. So Kyle, did you sketch it the other night, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so y'all
I'm
can.
gonna go out there just cause I missed the last two classes.
Well, yeah, y'all can take two sketches out there. Maybe one person takes different or better notes than the other one, however you wanna do it.
So is this map, or like, is that map, they use this to do that map?
You were not here 2 weeks ago,
It's
so you
not
don't even
right
have that
there.
project. Let me get you, I'm gonna have to get you a set of drawings for that.
Yeah, it's just like a computer glitch thing with the software.
Oh, it's fine.
So this is to fill in your, and remember, when y'all turn this Hunt Incorporated sheet 1 in, I need your shot sheet also. So this is your shot sheet, it's already pre-labeled for your stations. You just have to go through and do all the calculations and everything.
Say left.
So I'm not going outside for this one.
No, this is straight right here. All the info's right here. This is your property, 20 foot on the grid line. 30-foot spacing on the grid line.
You can try it.
Here is all the rod shots. So this was like we went outside and shot, and they said, your benchmark over here. That was a rod shot, your elevation, starting elevation, top of the benchmark, 100.0. Point A1, there's your rod shot. A2, rod shot. A3, rod shot. So you've gotta take all of those.
Maybe this one.
Just so I, cause I was here for, I take all the same ones, and I do put it on all these.
You're gonna calculate them all over here, and then when you get that finished elevation, that's what you will go through to make your final drawing looking something like
Is yours?
that. Remember, your property measurements around the outside go from each sheet to each sheet. You want to stick them up
Okay, I have a question. So, are we actually supposed to flower
there. What?
the flower bed?
You show it.
The trees?
You show it. No, you don't have to show trees and stuff, but you will show the outline of the flower bed.
But, I don't know where my thumb got this.
It's not coming out?
What's that?
It's not coming out? Alright, maybe it's lost in transit. Print a PDF and email it to me real quick.
I think some of the computers don't have the right printer.
Yeah, well, according to this, based on my little emails to them repeatedly, they came through today and said all but 2 of them are not printing. One of them does not have a mouse on it, they said. But other than that, everyone printed. Tomorrow night, I plan to test that. So this one right here tonight, Kyle, that'll be something that I'll probably send them an email saying this one right here did not print last night. It may be sitting on the printer when y'all get up here in the morning, but it did not come out tonight.
Do you want me to mark mine if it works?
I'm gonna get them to do them all tomorrow night. I got 20 plus in that class tomorrow night.
Ooh, that is a
So
big class.
I figured I'll have 17 at least here.
That's where I'm Piper intermediate track.
That's intermediate cat.
I wasn't here last Tuesday, cause I mentioned to you that I had to go to that training in Macon.
I'm not fogging you, I still need to work.
No, I know, and I 100% understand that. I was just letting you know, just so you didn't think I was.
What?
Any work that you didn't get. So last
sir.
week we talked about this
Just
one.
gotta make sure you have the
I
right
don't know what
ones.
else.
Is there?
But, you can look in Blackboard and see what you
It's
don't
the one
have
up
grades
there,
for.
the-
That's why I tried to check that
TA
a little bit
517
today,
left.
but I did not get the chance, I had to work, I literally worked today. There was no breaks today.
Alright, Kyle, I'm waiting for it to finish scanning it right now, and then I'll send it to the printer.
Is it possible we could unlock that classroom down there, see if my thumb drives in there?
Should be that one right there, if not, there's Mr. Spooner right there, one down there, you go. Hurry up with him, he's one down there.
What do I do?
He just needs access into that classroom.
Or which one? The one, the next one down.
My luck, mine doesn't print.
Yours didn't print?
No. and then-
Email it to me.
Huh?
Email it to me.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm doing right now with Kyle's. So y'all email it to me and I can get it sent out.
I know what to tell you.
So for Thursday, this pipe test, we have, what we're gonna be doing is taking elevations, getting dimensions, and then drawing it in
No,
AutoCAD.
he's printing
or-
it.
You just said two different things. You said pipe test and elevation, get elevations. So which one are you talking about?
So
Thursday
advanced-
night pipe class?
Advanced
Thursday
pipe.
night pipe class is a multi-view with ISO
Okay.
drawing.
So we're gonna,
That should be Kyle's that came out just now. Did a bunch of them come out?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, mine, it printed.
Did
Oh.
one of Kyle's come out too?
One,
or- All those are yours?
Yes, sir.
If it don't come out once. So here's Kyle's, I think it was because I printed it. So yours did work then?
Yes.
It worked over here, I'm not sure.
That'll save me some time.
Hey Kyle. It, I sent it, so. Alright, so let's get those and go outside and get this over with. They sent that email back today, saying they checked all the printers, you got a stack of them